We have the people, the talent and the resources. So let's unite to win the powers of independence to strengthen our economy, tackle the cost of living and bring about a fairer country. Independence, of course, is also fundamentally about democracy, about getting the governments you vote for. Sadly, we know the only guaranteed outcome of a Labour government is the Tory government that will follow it, and it usually lasts a lot longer. In an independent Scotland, never again will people here be subjected to an unelected Tory government. For those who are not persuaded of independence, I look forward over the next 6 weeks to listening to your concerns, making the case, hopefully persuading, but if not, then engaging in respectful dialogue. For those who are already persuaded, I can't stress enough how important it is to vote SNP on July the 4th. We will win our country's independence and win the powers to bring about a better Scotland through democratic pressure. So, on July the 4th, Independence Day, make sure your voice is heard.
I was going to let that play the whole way through before I commented, but see that little quip there when he looks up at the camera. Oh, I don't know. I will play the rest of this because I kind of want to make a wee point on this before I move on to anything else. And there's a sort of glaring irony with me bringing all this up at the start, because the whole point of me bringing it up is to point out that it's a distraction from other things that matter within, our education system, for example. And here I am beginning my stream by distracting you all with a wet wipe who half the time can't even look directly into people's eyes when he speaks. A wet wipe that flubs the sentences up more often than not. A wet wipe who has literally, in the last few days, said that he's the most popular leader in Scotland. Hands down the most popular leader. Oh, it's just unbearable. But anyway. Let me just play the rest of this shit before I go on any further.
And on that issue of making Scotland's voice heard, the SNP will always fight to further Scotland's interests under any constitutional circumstances. Quite simply, we put Scotland first. I expect over the next 6 weeks we'll see the Tories and Labour really going at it. They'll be going hammer and tongs to discredit each other. I'll also be going hammer and tongs, but not against anyone. I'll be going hammer and tongs to put Scotland first.
Oh, you're That's so what he said. Hard. What a hard man, eh? Wow, he's putting Scotland first, is he? Is he? Aye. Let me play this one as well. I love this. This clip here is just fun. I mean, I could have pulled up about 40 clips of this dickhead in the last week alone, but I just thought I'd play this one. So he's putting Scotland first, is he? He's thinking of the Scots. This one.
Knowing that we'd have a Westminster election soon, it's a wee bit sooner than I think everybody thought, but it's welcome. It's a welcome opportunity to remove the Tory government and to put Scotland first. The party's in a really good state to fight the election because it's got good, clear, popular leadership. And that's going to be our strength in this election campaign. We've also got our candidates in place in every part of the country, and we've got a really powerful message that Scotland is protected by the SNP.
Just wonder, could you sum up your strategy for achieving another independence referendum in one sentence?
Well, what I want to make sure we do is we build the support for independence so that people understand one simple thing. You'll never get independence unless you vote SNP. That'll be right at the heart of...
You'll never get independence unless you vote SNP. You heard it here, folks, So all these other independence parties that exist in Scotland, fuck them. You have to vote for the SNP. And if you don't, you ain't going to see independence. Now, what does that remind you of? What does that remind you of? My final clip for proceedings here tonight on this subject. Look at this wee clip. Yeah, brings us all back, does it not?
And in 2017, you said autumn 2018 was the common sense time for another referendum. In autumn 18, you said you'd set out your plans for an independence referendum in the not too distant future. In autumn 2019, you said the referendum must happen next year. In autumn 2020, you said you wouldn't rule out a vote in 2021. And in 2021, you said you'd start pushing for a referendum in spring 2022. When is going to be the right time?
I'm also conscious, by the way, as well, in my StreamYard, my signal thing keeps jumping about. So I do apologise if I start lagging. That's what that would indicate. But no, I just want to touch upon this briefly. So obviously, I'll say hello to who's in the chat. Scott Webb, how are you doing, sir? Arms, I'm talking about your homeland here. You know, I hope you're okay in Finland. And Paddy Burger, as always. What like? How are you going? I said, how are you going? Like I'm fucking from Australia there. My bad. But like through the week, there was the announcement of general election. You know, we had Rishi Sunak coming out in the pissing rain, and it was a beautiful setting. No, I mean, why he didn't do it in the building, I don't know. I've heard multiple theories as to why this has occurred. Some going as far as to say that they think they can win now that they've got inflation down by like 2% or worse to that effect. All the way to the other end of the spectrum, where some are saying that Rishi's had backstage talks with the lads in the Tory party and he doesn't want to be involved in a war because we're already apparently in a war with Russia. So when the next general election is called and inevitably the Labour Party win, it will be Keir Starmer that leads the British into the war. I mean, I don't know where they're getting these theories from. Who's to say any of them are incorrect? I don't know. But the difference between me and these people is I'm going to sit here and tell you what the fuck I think as if I know what is going on. You know? But yeah, I've heard quite a lot on this, but when it comes to the SNP, John Swinney, this absolute knobend, has been unelected. John Swinney, he's been in charge, in theory, of the SNP for what, 3.5 weeks, and he's mentioned independence a couple of times. But the mere second that general election was announced for July the 4th, it's been as if somebody has put some amphetamine in his coffee and it's independence, 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 oh, independence. Every interview, independence, independence, independence. Every single one of the members of the party that get interviewed simultaneously, independence, 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 as if like somebody has flicked a switch. Yeah? And it's just so telling for somebody like myself who observes the SNP, you know, at a distance and mocks them. You know, I've watched this bullshit for years. You know, and it's just every election, independence, 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 independence. But then the second they get in on that promise, right, they get in. And it's not just a promise of independence, of course. Right, let's be honest. The vast majority of people that do bother their arse to vote in Scotland, it's not like they have the greatest of choices, is it? You've got the SNP who have conflated two different voting demographics into one. So that's independent supporters and EU wet wipes into the one category. And over time, they've sort of chipped away at the difference between the two. So now independence supporters genuinely think that, you know, they want to be in the EU, which is retarded. It doesn't make sense. Ask them how they voted in 2014. They malfunction. But if they don't want to vote for them, though, who have they got? They've got the Tories. They've got the Lib Dems. They've got Labour. There's not really much to go on in that regard. But they get in every time. And then they don't get independence. It's like, when's the penny going to drop? It doesn't. And if you go onto Twitter, it's even funnier. There's a hashtag that's been going on and on and on for days now, vote SNP, and the amount of people with like EU flags in their names and pronouns in their bios going on about her. Oh, John Swinney's so powerful. He's really there for us. You know, it's like, you people, seriously, it's just remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. I mean, it's just, this is what we're going to get now for like 6 weeks. It's just independence, independence, independence. Yeah, I define it, dickhead. They can't, can they? Who's this? He says here, who are you voting for in the July election? I probably will not be voting. Okay, and you know, that might upset some people who expect them to say that I should vote for somebody, but I just don't see the fucking point. As far as predictions go, I think Labour are getting in. Whether they get in Scotland or not is a different matter entirely, but does it really make a difference? Not really. It's going to be the same nonsense, you know? There's no difference between the SNP and Labour. There's no difference really in this day and age between Labour and the Tory party. But the only good thing that can come out of the SNP getting a little dent as far as losing some seats would be finally an end, for at least temporarily, to the independence bullshit. You know? But we have to put up with that for another 6 weeks. And it's just ridiculous. We've barely heard about it for the last fuck knows how many months. You know, and now it's independence. That's all you're going to get. And people fall for it every time. And it's just a mere distraction, as far as I'm concerned. And it's simply a tool to win people over so they get in again. That's all that is, because they ain't going to achieve it. You know, they're coming away with nonsense such as, oh, well, you know, you need to vote for us so we can secure our services and our industries. And then they simultaneously say that the Labour Party will destroy our services the same way that the Tories have been destroying our services. Well, if the Tories have been destroying your services, then what the fuck difference would it make if we vote for you again? Because you clearly weren't protecting when the Tories destroyed our services. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you. Jesus. Anyway, that said, tactical voting. Well, you know, who is there really in Scotland? Is Reform even standing in Scotland? I wouldn't personally vote for Reform anyway, given the fact that, you know, Richard Tice, you know, oh, hope no hate. Who should I ban from my party? Get fucked, mate. Anyway, William, what like? So that brings me on to, as I say, I thought I'd give my 2 cents on that. Just honestly, the last independence, that's all I've been hearing now. It's just remarkable. Truly remarkable. Oh, I might even get that clip. I have to. Oh, no, I've got to get the contempt one up. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted again. But this clip is remarkable. So I don't know which one to get up, actually. There's two. Oh, John Swinney. This just goes to show how insane they are. You know, he says, I'll get. Yeah, here we go. Here's the school one. Wait till you hear this. I'm sorry. We'll get to the purpose of my stream in a second, but this is an absolute doozy. So, present screen. Here we go. Like, and that's for that SMP's particularly bottled it. I can't help but wonder if this is like contrived. Like the day of the election, just on a wee side note, the day that the general election was announced, around about that time frame, you had Police Scotland coming out and saying that they've now put forward their report regarding, and they don't name him, but we know who they're talking about. They're talking about Nicola Sturgeon's husband. They finally finalized the report about him, right? That's in the news. Then obviously iPad Gate's in the news. John Swinney said on Thursday this week that he wasn't going to sack the guy who spent £11,000 of taxpayers' money on roaming charges. He's not getting sacked, to the dismay of everybody, rightfully so, across the country. Like, what are you on, mate? You know. And then thirdly, it was on the radio just yesterday, the day prior, sort of conceding that the SNP don't have any funds at the moment. You know, it's not going well for them. I don't know what to say. Is it contrived? Is it deliberate to ensure that the Labour Party get in? I don't really think the SNP need to do much in that regard, you know. But they're getting in anyway. The question is just how many seats in Scotland. I don't know. But it's been quite funny to watch anyway, because I hate the SNP. I really do. I don't give a fuck. As long as they lose some seats so they can shut up for a few years is all I care about. But anyway, yeah, here's this video here. Here's one of two. This is funny as hell. It's just, oh dear.
To this election campaign, I stepped forward for the party leadership, knowing that we'd have a Westminster election soon. It's a wee bit soon than I think everybody thought, but it's welcome. Move the Tory government, and that's what I'll be saying to the public. But I also have to say that I think this is perhaps the latest act of disrespect from a Conservative government to call an election during the Scottish summer school holidays. There'll be schools in Scotland on holiday by the time polling day comes, and that will not have been given a moment's thought by the Tory election planners. It shows the contempt the Tories have for Scotland.
Oh yeah, just contempt, you know, just contempt. Really now. I mean, just fuck off. I don't even know what to say to that, to be honest. It's just funny. Total ball bagger. And then there was another one I was trying to, I don't know if that was lagging while I was did I save it? No. Fuck. No, it might work. 2 seconds. Did I get it? Oh, I did. You're in luck. Here's the last clip before we move on. It's doing that thing again with my signal as well. Just anybody in the chat, just tell me it did lag a bit. Yeah. Well, you heard the main part though, but My signal keeps doing it, like next to my view count. It's keeps jumping about my signal, which is weird. But hey, I will continue on my last video of Johnson. There's so many. There's so fucking many. This one's a belter.
Opinion polls this week have put Scottish Labour ahead of the SNP in vote share. How do you plan to win back voters in the next 6 weeks? And are you defending Michael Matheson because you don't want a by-election that you could potentially lose?
Well, I've set out what I'm doing with Michael Matheson because I think it's the fair thing to do in terms of due process in the Parliament. In relation to opinion polls, yeah, of course, we've got challenges in the opinion polls. I accepted that in my answer to James Cook. There's other details in opinion polls, and they relate to the choices that people often make in elections. People often make choices in elections because of their confidence in the people who are setting out their arguments in the political leadership of political parties. I'm the most popular political leader in Scotland. That's a huge advantage for the SNP. We're going to use it. We're going to work hard in every constituency around the country to make sure that I'm visible, leading the campaign from the front as the most popular leader in Scotland, dwarfing the people who question me in Parliament.
So he says it twice. He says it twice. You know, he's the most popular leader in Scotland. Says who? Then he says it again. Dwarfing the other leaders in Scotland. Really? Really? Oh, that's just fucking remarkable. It is remarkable. There is no popularity to John Swinney. None at all. I don't know if this is like he's been told to act confident in the face of defeat, or if he genuinely believes this. But my God, it's remarkable to witness. Really remarkable. A failed leader who did fuck all in charge of the SNP all those years ago is back in the front running again because nobody else wanted to pick up and try to repair the car crash that is the SNP. And then he comes along and then brags that he's allegedly what he's a modern leader. He said this a few times and brags that he's popular. That's like some guy who's insecure about his penis saying he's got a big willy. You know, it's not really any different. Popular. Really now? Really now? I don't think so, buddy. But it's funny nonetheless. But as I said, it's remarkable how many people have lapped this stuff up. They think, oh, this is our time. We're getting our independence now. What? Because John Swinney said so? What's he saying that's any different to any other political leader that was in charge of the SNP prior to him in the last few years? Nothing. It's just remarkable. He's probably like the type of guy who gets out of bed every morning, you know, and he like does that thing with his fingers with a wee double gun thing, like, wow, you're the man. No, yeah, so you're on it. So you're fucking twat. Anyway, I'm a bit worried about this signal stuff, but I will see what is what. So, obviously, the title of my stream is about critical race theory. Again, I really am sick fucking talking about it as much as I have to, but it is what it is. I have got the first seat. If I'd known my signal was going to be shit, I would have just downloaded all the videos prior, and then they would have been able to play quite the thing. No. But now as it stands, I might have to just play them as is. So I will have to be sure that there's no laggy waggy. But that said, so the Building Racial Literacy Programme, a charity that I've covered. Shut up! A group that are funded by the Scottish Government. They've, with the sole purpose of transforming Scottish education to have it long-term, every teacher in Scotland to be racially literate, as they call it, which effectively when broken down, boiled down to, is overhauling education as it currently stands, sort of destroying this sort of colorblind society that they refer to from time to time, effectively eviscerating the ideas of a meritocracy in favor of equity and critical race theory, you know. And it's been funded by our government, of course. And it goes unnoticed. It's been going unnoticed for years. Every year, the taxpayer is funding this, albeit it's not exactly a massive amount, but Freedom of Information requests have shown that it's been funded by the Scottish Government for all that. And here we go again. They've punted out their latest video. So I thought I would play through that a bit, go through a few things that are related to it to a certain extent, and we'll go from there. Might play the video that I downloaded. Sensum is on tonight, so is Paka. But no, I'm not allowed on anymore. And to be honest, he go fuck himself. It's pathetic and childish. So fuck him. But yeah, I think I will do that. If this lags again here briefly, it's because I've gone back on the Telegram just to get the video. Don't know if it has. CRT, like. Let me see if I can get it. Oh, fuck no, man. I feel like sensing this tonight, yeah, because my fucking laptop's been pretty slow. Because I think that might be part of the problem, to be honest. I've got so many tabs open. But here we go. All right, we'll go from here. Boomer. I'm a big boomer. Yes, I am disingenuous. I mean, you should admit, you know this anyway. That's what the D stands for. Disingenuous Joseph. So what, man? I'm not going to throw shite about. Fuck it. I've said my piece. I don't give a fuck. Anyway, here we go. We will start from here.
Is an anti-racist learning program which began in 2021 and was co-designed by groups of people who are working to make anti-racism a baseline value in education. There have now been 4 cohorts of the Building Racial Literacy program. That's over 400 people. Past participants of the program, known as alumni, are continuing to sow anti-racist seeds in Scottish education. They are building on their learning and turning this into positive changes in their nurseries, schools, colleges, universities, community learning settings, museums and more. In education settings across Scotland, anti-racist clubs are giving children and young people the space and time to connect and raise their voices. The anti-racist clubs have hosted school events, run learning sessions for teachers and for other schools, and have taken action in changing their school environment. They have been safer spaces for pupils to unpack their lived experiences of racism and to feel seen and supported. They have even met with politicians to share their work.
It's all so evasive. For people that are apparently preaching truth to power and this is part of progress and whatnot, we're making the world a better place, why all the secrecy? Who are these government officials they've been meeting? Which schools is this shite incorporated into? Which schools and nurseries do these teachers come from that have started to punt this stuff out? They never tell you. They never tell you. Apart from the odd moron on Twitter who uses their hashtag, you know. Hey guys, just currently doing my critical race theory program training. And then they'll put the wee hashtag and then they get instantly fucking caught out, screenshotted and whatnot. But for the vast majority of them, they're living in the realm of secrecy. I mean, even a few years ago, I tried to join this program to see what it was about when they were announcing their second round of it. They're in the 4th round now, hence this 4th video. I tried to join it and see the hoops that I started having to jump through just to like get through the initial fucking like signing up phase. It's just very, very, very secretive and security heavy and whatnot. You're not getting in there unless you're genuinely a soy boy who wants to brainwash children or you're black. You know, you ain't getting in there if there's any question marks over your true intention. Not a chance. But even then fighting the materials and whatnot that these people speak about and what these people punt out, that's very difficult to obtain as well. And it's become even more so in the last few years because since me and a few others, I say a few others, quite a lot of people start calling them out on Twitter directly. And then obviously what did that result in? It resulted in the Scottish government calling us out, not by name, but it was clearly us. They called us white supremacists. How dare the white supremacists, alleged white supremacists, call out anti-racist educators? Oh, is that what they are? Is that what they are? And how about this? So they're meeting with officials from our government. They sit on Scottish government panels to reform our academia. They themselves have admitted on multiple occasions for their stupid little videos and whatnot that they publicate that they've got people up and down Scotland in different age groups, whether that be in nursery school settings all the way to universities. Who are these people? Do we not have a right to know? Do parents not have a right to know what sort of bullshit's been sort of incorporated into their school potentially? You know, under the guise of anti-racism? I'm sure people should have a right to know this. So with John Swinney, it was funny. He talks about, we're there for the Scots. We're there for the Scots, you know. I vote for the SNP as a vote for you. Is it I? Is it I? Because I'll tell you this, buddy. Ain't the Tory party that are pumping the shit into our schools. It's the SNP. So.
Local and regional networks have been established to keep the work going and have been making brilliant interactive resources to support fellow educators in finding new ways to diversify their teaching. Community learning networks have been set up to share resources and host more learning sessions. This means that those who support adult education or youth groups have a stronger understanding of racism and how to challenge it. Creative anti-racist projects have been taking place too. There have been music festivals, culture carnivals, and one primary school's anti-racist club created a video using quotes from pupils. It even played at their local cinema over the summer holidays. The Building Racial Literacy programme has also won awards, which is helping to spotlight its work in Scottish education. And in education.
Ooh, they're winning awards. I remember actually posting about that on Telegram at the time. Yeah, that's right. They're winning equality awards now. They're winning awards for this shit. I mean, it's remarkable. Even that on the screen there. Look who's all involved in this. You know, you've got a myriad of different organisations, some universities. Education Scotland, of course, is part of Scottish Government. They pretend they're different, but they're not. EIS, largest teaching union in Scotland. GTC, General Teaching Council of Scotland, which makes the laws for teachers to abide by. You know? If they say jump, teachers have to say, how high, daddy? How high do you want me to jump? Oh, papa, daddy. That type of thing. It's fucking remarkable, eh? But you never hear that being discussed at any of their podiums when they're talking about the election coming up there. No, you don't. And if they ever do mention it, it'll be under the guise of anti-racism. That's all it is. It's just anti-racism. Yeah, of course. That's all it is. Just teaching people not to be racist. Yeah, of course. Exactly. Brainwashing. Yeah, political grooming, brainwashing. It's anti-white bullshit. That's all it is. It absolutely is. It's just anti-white bullshit.
Amazing alumni achievements have been supported by a strong sense of community and growing friendships. This feeling of connection is even more powerful for alumni of colour. Before joining the programme, they reported feeling alone in their concerns about racism and finding it difficult to discuss. But anti-racism work can't just depend on black and minority ethnic educators. White majority ethnic colleagues are beginning to learn about racism and now need to work to be less race evasive.
They're beginning to learn about racism. Really? Pretty sure they would have known what racism is defined as prior to black people coming along and telling them, no, you need to know the proper definition. We know the score, you know? But that's what they really mean there. They mean there that they're starting to adopt, or at the very bare minimum, open their ears to the possibility of an alternative worldview as far as what racism is, aka open bracket, the critical race theorist framework view, you know? Everything you've been taught's a lie. Let me tell you now, me and Tyrone are going to tell you all about what really constitutes racism. You know, now sit down, white boy. You know? And it's just... Even that in and of itself is just funny to laugh at. I mean, I'm not going to waste too much time just poking fun at the ludicrousy of the video, but like stuff like that's always bewildered me, really. Like, who do these people think they are? Does the penny never drop for them when they like come out of university or wherever the hell it is where they learn this shit that maybe they're the problem, you know? Like, as if they've come out of university in that conveyor belt, they come out the other side of it and all of a sudden they can see the world clearly. Everybody else is wrong. They can see the world clearly, you know? I really know. Oh, dear.
Before BRL, I most likely would not have challenged racism for the fear of saying the wrong thing or making a mistake. This course has taught me that talking about these mistakes and correcting them is far more important. School leaders have a huge role in this journey by supporting anti-racist work in a meaningful way. I now see the importance of anti-racism coming from the top down within a school, as well as from the bottom up. It's the responsibility of all and not the job of an individual. The seeds of anti-racism are growing in Scottish education. There is still a long way to go, but we have come so far and have so much to celebrate. Our sense of community, most of all. Thank you to those changemakers and their work. If you're not already involved, there are plenty of ways to begin your journey.
Ah, the seeds of anti-racism. It's just sinister, man. It really is pretty sinister. Now I can get rid of a few tabs, which is good. Yes. Get rid of that one, boy. This cartoon really speaks to me. You know what, though? I wish it spoke to a lot more people, to be honest, because, again, it's one of those things that's just sort of flying under the radar, really. You know? Hence why I played what I played at the start. It's just that's all you're going to hear for the next, 6 weeks. There's going to be shit like that. But I just wish that people would maybe, stop sitting on their Twitter accounts all day long and complaining about how bad the Tories are, or complaining about how bad the Labour Party are, or simping for an inept SNP, and maybe look at the sort of stuff that they're punting in our academia. You know, they're so great, they really care about you, but they clearly don't care about you, do they? Because of the bullshit that they're putting into our schools. Why is that? It's just they don't even know the stuff's going on. It's fucking annoying. What toffee lad how was the hot air balloon? You obviously didn't die. But yeah, I wanted to play a wee bit of their first video on this, just so you can understand. I've played this before, just so you can understand where this comes from, right? What started this? What was their justification for imposing critical race theory in Scottish schools? Okay, so as I say, I do apologize if this lags because I don't have this video downloaded. This is a fucking
After
dude.
the murder of George Floyd in 2020 and the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, children and young people in Scotland met with the Deputy First Minister to make their voices heard and share their lived experiences of racism. Young people explained that teachers should think about how to better reflect Black and minority ethnic history and experience, as well as the importance of tackling racism in society today. From this meeting, the Scottish Government set up a race equality and anti-racism in education programme with a focus on 4 areas. 1. Education leadership and professional learning. 2. Curriculum reform. 3. Diversity in the teaching profession and education workforce. And 4. Racism and racist incidents.
George Floyd dies. I need to get rid of that tab. George Floyd dies, and then all of a sudden, this is where we're at now. That was the justification. Fuck off. There's so many tabs open there. So George Floyd was sort of the precursor for this. That and COVID. There was the sort of ethnicity. They called it the COVID ethnicity inquiry. And that was to determine why Black people were dying more in Scotland from COVID than white people. And of course, they concluded that it was racism. Of course, it's racism. It's always racism. That tied with the George Floyd fiasco. The Scottish Government decided, with John Swinney, by the way, as a Deputy First Minister at the time, with the SNP deciding that the time was now to implement anti-racist education in our schools, and that's exactly what they did. And that's exactly what they have been doing, somewhat on the sly. And now I have to go through some of these tabs to show you some more of the bullshit that's been going on. And I think I'll start with this one. This one's quite revealing. So I found this the other day. Share my screen. I mean, this is just ridiculous. This is our Scottish government, the government that, vote for us, and there's a vote for us is a vote for you. This shit. So we have here the Anti-Racism in Education Programme fact sheet. So this came out last year, but I just never came across it, but it's still relevant regardless. Because everything that they're talking about within this is most certainly still going on. But they say themselves here that the government's Anti-Racism in Education Programme was established in 2021 to bring together all of the separate pieces of work already underway to tackle racism in education. And then they go on to talk about, down here slightly, why it's needed. All BAME children, teachers and school staff have the right to experience an education system that is free from racism and intolerance. An anti-racist education system also creates an increased variety of perspectives for everyone within it, which we know leads to a better understanding of society itself, creating good global citizens. Oh, Really now? A vote for us is a vote for you. Yeah. Sure it is. Many discussions arose from the BLM movement, which came to prominence in 2020. Many were around Scotland's black and minority ethnic people's experience of education. I mean, what the fuck's that got to do with George Floyd? Seriously. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Seriously. Anyway, as well as that, of black and ethnic minority teachers and school staff. Thousands of pieces of correspondence on the subject were received by Scottish ministers, which outlined some shocking experiences of racism in schools. This included, so this is their shocking examples of experience of racism in schools. This included communication from children and young people who raised specific concerns about their experience of education and their desire to see a more representative approach in Scotland. So the lack of brown and black teachers and the lack of brown and black people in their textbooks is enough for them to say that their experience is inadequate and they're the victims of racism. Well, it just so happens George Floyd died, so we'll get right on that and rectify the fucking problem. You know? Yeah. The same correspondence also offered a wide range of suggested solutions to the many challenges and barriers which still exist. All the barriers. Oh, yeah. As part of the programme's remit is to identify ways of taking these forward. I love this bit as well, right? So it says, if everyone is treated the same, racism will end. There are clearly good intentions behind that approach, but treating everyone the same, aka colour blindness, on the individual level doesn't address the systemic and entrenched barriers which black and, or BAMEs, people continue to face on a daily basis. Based on what? Based on what? Just the usual tripe that we're all accustomed to. But the reason I'm reading this shit out is because this is the sort of tripe that is justifying the nonsense that we're seeing in our schools, yeah? You know? But a vote for us is a vote for you. So it gets worse than that, though. It says down here, it goes on about like the different BAME groups and whatnot. But I like this bit down here. An anti-racist education system free from racism, intolerance, and bias benefits all learners and educators of all ethnic identities, including the white majority. The white majority. But we're not all one either, are we? You know, there's Scots, there's Polish, there's Germans, there's French, etc. But we're all lumped into the one category, of course. Of course we are. It creates an increased variety of perspectives within the education system, which we know leads to a better understanding of society itself, creating good global citizens. That's the second reference to that shite. But you keep going further down. Ensuring that the work of the anti-racism and education program itself is anti-racist. Members have developed anti-racist principles, which I'll come to, I even know I've gone over this before, which underpin the work and approach of the anti-racist education program as a whole. These are consistent with our overarching approach to anti-racism across all policy areas. These principles are aligned with the following conventions, strategies, and legislation. And you've got the UN being mentioned here twice. In fact, you've got UNESCO, you've got the UNCRC, you've got Getting It Right for Every Child, which is a cancerous piece of legislation in Scotland, which was where the name person shite derived from at the time. The Equality Act, of course. But then they go on to say here that we recognise there is no such thing as a race-neutral policy. We recognise that there is no such thing as a race-neutral policy. Well, there kind of was once upon a time, and it was called a meritocracy, you know? That every policy or decision we make, has the potential to create racial equality or inequality. Like, this is where it gets so annoying with these people. Like, I mean, I don't know when the penny should be dropping for these people, and it never will, honestly. Let's be serious here. But the reality of the matter is, like, we ain't equal. Nobody's equal. Even amongst ourselves, white people, we're not all equal. Some are thick as fuck. Some are very smart. Some excel in other things and others don't. On average, though, some are good at some things and others are not. You know, you can't legislate for equality. It's just impossible. It doesn't fucking work. We have a meritocracy. It's in the law. It's only as of late that that's starting to be breached in terms of a law, where they've got things such as positive discrimination, which I'm pretty sure gets mentioned in this. It does further down the page. Positive discrimination and whatnot, you know, because we need to apparently make things equal on paper. Same principle applies with when they're trying to force women into politics. And until things are at least 50-50. You notice it's at least ever just 50-50, half women, half men in a government cabinet. No, it has to be at least 50. But until such a time, it's inequality, apparently. It's just political games. It's just excuse after excuse to shaft white men. You know, or in the case of race, it's an excuse for these people to get into power. So then they say here as well that the redesign will empower and liberate those who have been historically disadvantaged by education systems. I mean, it's fucking Scotland. What are you on about? The work includes a focus on changing systems, structures, policies, and practices and attitudes. They seek to sound to the voices of BAMEs. They seek to be transparent about the process involved with minority ethnic people, and there will be an emphasis placed on children and young people of colour as learners in the Scottish education system. Come down a wee bit more, though. There's more to this. They're going about LGBT people. The barriers faced by minority ethnic teachers are distinct and specific as a result of entrenched and systemic racism. Really, it's just fucking really. The number of minority ethnic teachers facing discrimination solely on the grounds of race will be very, very small. And as a result, the work of the anti-racism education program is viewed through an intersexual lens. Look at this shit, right? So I want to say that according to the 2011 census, most recent data, there is the census results for Scotland did come out recently, but they've not broken it down that much on ethnic lines. Well, they have, but they haven't. It's hard to explain. I can go through that at the end of the stream, I suppose. 4% of people living in Scotland identifying as coming from a BAME background. An early analysis of the 2021 census, which is beginning to emerge, indicates that the percentage will increase. In 2022, the percentage of Scotland's teachers identifying as coming from a BAME background was 1.8%. Demonstrating that teachers are chronically underrepresented in the profession, particularly in promoted posts. So what they're saying there is that because 4% of the population was BAME, 4% of teachers should be BAME. This is proportionate representation. I know everybody knows this, but this is how insane this is. So because it's not 4%, because it doesn't match a fucking census result, then that's somehow systemic racism, proof of racism, and a clear-cut example as to why we need to impose more anti-racist policies in our schools, which amounts to nothing short of just shafting white people because they're white. And calling it positive discrimination on top of that as well. And it even says it there. The recommendation to meet the 4% target. Where did you get that 4% target from? Well, you got that from there where it says at least 4% of... sorry, it doesn't say that. It says it there. Most recent data, 4% of people living in Scotland identify as BAME. So that's where they're getting the 4% target from. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So until such a time it's recent. The recommendation to meet the 4% target was made by Rowena Harshaw, whatever. The report is clear about the benefits to all learners of having a teaching population that reflects the communities that it serves. So what happens when, like, the vast majority of kids in Scotland are BAME? Well, we have policies in place to ensure that the white kids can still learn appropriately with a white teacher, if you can find one at that point. Or is it only a problem when it's shoes on the other foot? Remains to be seen, but I think we know the answer to that one. Children and young people having role models that are representatives of their lived experience. So what about the white kids? Even in a class or a school that's predominantly BAME now, we need more BAME teachers because we need role models. What about the white kids in that school? If it's a problem for the BAME kids lacking a white role model, what about the white kids when they don't have a role model? Increased engagement from children and young people as they can identify more readily with teachers who share their cultural, religious, or linguistic practices. Again, what about the Christian children? Or the atheist children? Well, will that not matter? We need Muslim teachers. An increased variety of perspectives within the education system. More perspectives lead to a better understanding of society. The breakdown of stereotypes and negative misconceptions about minority groups. An increase of diversity of language and thought, reflecting the knowledge and experience of colleagues, children, and young people. Breaking down barriers and ultimately creating cohesion among different ethnic groups, creating a more tolerant and fair society free of racism. Of course, this is all in the context of schools, infiltrating schools, but this bullshit, the laugh of this all is the more that you just fucking shoehorn in your diversity quotas, shoehorn in your anti-racism, and shoehorn in immigrants en masse, the less cohesion there is. It's almost as if, you can legislate for all you want. You wouldn't need to do that if it wasn't such a fucking problem that's getting worse, You're exacerbating your own problem that you created, really. But it gets worse, even this bit here. So the diversity in the teaching profession and education workforce subgroup of the anti-racist education program is taking forward actions aimed at supporting the education sector to meet the 4% target. They'll focus on addressing barriers to recruitment and retention, right? With a hope that minority ethnic teachers are not lost from the education system due to racist experiences. All right. Some work has been carried out around positive action, as well as a way to address recruitment and retention. So, say down here as well what positive action is. Look at this one. Look at this one before I move on. Look at this. Is it this one? I think so. Positive action in the workplace. Yeah. If you're an employer in Great Britain, you can choose to use the positive actions measures in the Equality Act to help people overcome certain barriers and improve representation in your workforce. In order to do this lawfully, you should understand that the legislation allows and familiarise yourself with the full guidance. Positive action allows additional help to be provided for groups of people who share a protected characteristic. You can take proportionate action that aims to reduce disadvantage in order to level the playing field. It's remarkable. So it's legally, you're legally allowed to shaft white people in the recruitment process. Why? Because apparently we have to meet the needs of BAMEs. We need to fulfill representation statistics and quotas and whatnot. Share this. But then you get to building racial literacy, of course. As part of the work, they seek to address the issue of racism and racial discrimination within school settings. Anecdotal evidence is clear that experiencing racism and race-related discrimination are key contributors to the decision of minority ethnic educators to leave the teaching profession or teacher training. As such, building an education system that is cognizant of and able to discuss and address race-related issues and with a workforce that is racially literate is essential. The racial literacy provides educators with the language to acknowledge racism and begin to address it, both personally and professionally. And then say here that the Anti-Racism in Education Programme funds Education Scotland to deliver the Building Racial Literacy Programme. This is a programme that is open to individuals from across the education workforce in Scotland, regardless of previous anti-racist knowledge, seeking to improve their racial literacy and encourage them to develop an anti-racist action plan that can then be taken in and implemented within their own settings. And then they give you a few wee links here that you can have a wee look at. And it goes on a bit further. I know I've been reading a lot of shit for a while now. The primary role of the working group is to develop, in collaboration with other anti-racist and education programme working groups where relevant, resources for schools to prevent and respond to racism. This group is co-chaired by Learning Directorate Support and Wellbeing Unit, Zemvo Scotland, and Intercultural Youth Scotland. Yeah. I've tried to find out more about this particular group here, but they don't seem to really exist anymore from what I can see. However, they say here that the actions of the focus group on strengthening resource and approaches to prevent and respond to racist incidents, developing guidance and a whole school approach to anti-racism, right? It just goes on and on and on. Building racial literacy, So, this is what's going on in Scotland, of course. It's been going on for some time. Unbeknownst to the population at large, as they all sit and salivate over John Swinney at present. Just trying to find... Got so many tabs, which is so fucking annoying. Is it this one? Yeah. So here's your Building Racial Literacy Programme, of course. I'll come on to some clips in just a second, break things up a bit, but this has been going on for a few years now, taxpayer funded. I think I've still got the Freedom of Information request. Yeah, I do. Here's a Freedom of Information request that came out about them a few years ago. Who created the programme, who evaluated the programme, etc. They say here that it empowers, Building Racial Literacy Programme aims to empower educators to identify and implement anti-racist behaviours. Process in their everyday practice. These are the programme outcomes. They want to build racial literacy, in particular, start learning about the nuances of racism and anti-racism, begin developing the skills, confidence, and resilience to engage in a racial dialogue, and develop a personalised action plan to lead anti-racist change. They say down here, here's some of the groups that were involved in creating the programme, most of whom people have probably heard of, whether via my channel or elsewhere, that they do go on about the funding. And I mean, as I say, it's not much, but it's the point. That's not the point. Scottish Government's funding this bullshit. And they've been doing it every year. How much has the programme cost so far and what is it projected to cost? It's been funded by the government as part of the wider programme of work on anti-racism in education. The total cost for the programme at present at that point in time was 57,000 in 2021 to 2022, and it is projected to cost the same in 2022 to 2023. And I can guarantee it would have been the same for this fucking year as well. 2023 going into 2024, maybe even more now that they've got a lot more teachers and whatnot involved. But still, this is taxpayer funded. You know, so when John Swinney stands at his podium and with his really cringy speeches, independence, 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 and says bullshit along the lines of a vote for the SNP is a vote for your future because they care about the Scots. Do they really? Do they really? Because if it's not this, it's other things as well, of course. Your sustainable development bullshit in the schools, global citizenship education, climate change education, LGBT education, gender stuff in and of itself, like only LGBT stuff, you know. And then, of course, you've got this. Yeah. A myriad of other examples of things that they're doing wrong in this country, but we can't talk about that because it's Westminster's fault. And if I say anything, I'm a Tory. Yep, that's what I am. You know, this is it there, though, in black and white. And this is from the Scottish Government's own website, by the way. You know, this is literally their website, and they're telling you that they're funding this shit. Might be a pitiful amount, but it's still our money at the end of the day, is it not? If people are going to cry about Michael Matheson and an iPad, it was 11 grand. Surely they should have a problem with that. But of course they don't, because independence. Dearie me. So, but I just wanted to highlight this as well here, though. So this is the ultimate goal of this program, where they want to see in the future every educator in Scotland being racially literate, effective at dealing with racism, and confident in leading anti-racism. So what that means is effectively that they want to completely overhaul the education system in order for teachers to all be this way inclined. That's what they want. Every educator in Scotland. That means every up-and-coming teacher, every teacher in the profession at present, and every teacher going forward who's not yet a teacher will be this way inclined mindset-wise. You know, this is a very slow and secretive march through the institution, because they are totally poisoning it with this bullshit. And they're being given a free pass by and large, because the vast majority of people don't even know that it's going on. And for those that have some semblance of understanding of it, they seem to be brushed off with the excuse, the words that they all hide behind because they're cowards. Oh, it's just anti-racism. You know, it's not though, is it? When you're talking about white privilege and white fragility and whiteness theory and whatnot, and insinuating that Scotland historically and Scotland at present is just rife from top to bottom. Every facet of society is built upon the idea and concept of racism. I'm sorry. It's just not normal, is it? Not really. So I'll have a look at the chat in a second. I'm just having a wee look at my YouTube, because obviously I had other videos to play. So I'll play a bit of, let me see, get up here. I've got a lot of videos of these fucking people on my channel, to be honest, but I will play a wee bit of this before I move on. This is the creator, or one of the creators of the program, discussing building racial literacy. You know? Because that's what they do. Just leave our kids alone. Absolutely. Absolutely. No one is anti-racist until everyone is anti-racist. Well, they're even saying it's not enough for you to be racist anymore. No, it's not enough for you to not be racist anymore. It has to be anti-racist. It's all right. Oh, Jesus. But like, most people don't know what that means. They have no idea. Same as Antifa, as I've said before. You know, Antifa just means anti-fascist. Really now? That's all they are. They just simply oppose fascism. Yeah. It's good to hide behind a fake label. And they've been doing that for a while. And as are the anti-racists. So I'll share my screen. Here is Melina. Here we go.
Actually really important and part of our social justice values. It eventually works. So don't give up on the term anti-racist. So yeah, just to give you a bit of background on what's going in Scotland, the Building Racial Literacy Programme is a professional learning program prototype that has been co-constructed with a range of anti-racist organisations, including the Scottish Association for Minority Ethnic Educators, so with Khadija here, and it's part of the wider Scottish Government programme of work looking at race, equality and anti-racism in education. And this first iteration of this prototype programme is really designed to build the racial literacy of educators across Scotland. And what we mean by racial literacy, we're really looking at developing people's understanding of racism. And just to touch on the point about misconceptions about racism, there's still that misconception that racism is really about individual hate and prejudice, and it's usually intentional, and that wider systemic but also endemic nature of racism is misunderstood. There's a misunderstanding that.
So here she goes, redefining racism, of course. So it's not what people understand it to be. Oh no, I know more. I know the scoop. So let me tell you. This is what I'm saying. Like, so when people say that they've had their eyes opened when they've participated in this program or they've listened to these people in general, what it really means is that, like, everything that they've learned, everything that they understand about definitions and whatnot, it means fuck all because they're redefining it to suit their own political ideology. These people are a fucking poison, right? We know the origins of the word racism. We know it comes from the Trotsky and whatnot, right? But if you were to open up a dictionary at any point in time from that point until now, you will quite clearly see that how the dictionary defines racism to be is having contempt for or seeing people from a different race as you as beneath you and subordinate, right? And that's not good enough. No, that's not enough. We need to redefine that so we can look at the structures and whatnot. I'll play it back a wee bit so you can see what I'm saying here. There we go.
Developing people's understanding of racism, and just to touch on the point about misconceptions about racism, there's still that misconception that racism is really about individual hate and prejudice, and it's usually intentional, and that wider systemic but also endemic nature of racism is misunderstood. There's a misunderstanding that racism is not really an issue in Scotland, it's more an issue in England or in the US, but not really in Scotland. So in this program, we're really trying to raise people's awareness of how racism works in Scotland, uplifting, amplifying those experiences of racism in Scottish education so that educators become aware of how it can operate, even within their classrooms, often unintentionally because they're unaware. So it's about building their understanding, also building their confidence to practice, and embed anti-racist practice in their behaviours and processes, and build their confidence in racial dialogue. So really building their skills to talk about race with children, with young people, with their with staff, colleagues, parents, and wider.
Just yammering on and 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 on. I just don't understand that this woman has been given the platform that she's been given it. I mean, that is the woman who is the face of this sort of pervasive program in our schools. Her, you know. I mean, it does get. Well, I'm looking through some of the videos I've got here to show a few other examples. Not particularly her rambling on for like 50 odd minutes. I do apologize for that, but there's a few that are just insane in terms of like what they're doing in our schools. Let me see what's going on here. Embedding anti-racism into primary schools. That's yeah. Here's one here. Yeah, let this one play this one, and then I'll move on to some of the other tabs I've got open because I've got too many. Standard practice should be like share my screen. Bye. Share screen. Look at this one.
Targets for all teachers to analyse the curriculum with criticality. A helpful tool for decolonising the curriculum is the anti-racist critical thinking model. It can be applied to lessons, topics, resources, novel studies, and even school events. We started small, with every teacher using this model to review one area of the curriculum each term. Most chose to focus on their social studies or topic work. Primary 1 made changes to their Wonderland topic, bringing in fairy tales and more diverse culture, and also challenged gender stereotypes. Our Primary 5s found more diverse historical figures to study and widened their topic to include slavery. Our P7 World War II topic was widened to include the soldiers from the British Indian Army, who were part of the world's largest volunteer army. When decolonising the curriculum, we looked at building a wider range of perspectives into the work that we already do. This made it more manageable for colleagues. Staff were asked to consider stereotypes, assumptions, and whose voice is not heard. This was aligned with key themes of social justice and global citizenship. I'm really fortunate to work with a fantastic team, and they took the lead in many areas. A dedicated group of teachers created a series of lessons on equity and diversity for nursery-age children through to those in P7. The senior school pupil diversity group reviewed our materials and our lessons. The evaluation of primary pupils was very positive, with the children showing a real interest and commitment to promoting a culture of diversity and equity. The lessons begin in the nursery, where we discuss differences and the value of them, to primary 1 and 2, where we discuss what racism is and where our skin colour comes from, to primary 6, where we explore concepts such as privilege and discrimination and their impact.
1 and 2. Primary 1 and 2. Let me just stop sharing that. Oh, it's fucking mental. That's like what I'm trying to get at here. So this video that I initially played at the start, you know, the 4th part to their never-ending fucking update series and what's going on behind the scenes. They make references all on and off to the schools that they're involved with, the government's officials that they've been meeting and whatnot. And I mean, occasionally through the grapevine, stuff like that will come out, like the video I just played there, where you've got like teachers admitting what they're now teaching in schools. It's just insanity. It's truly insanity. I could spend all night playing all the different videos and whatnot of stuff that I've found, but I mean, I'm assuming most people have seen some of them anyway if they're subscribed to this channel. But it's just fucking constant, and it's insanity. And it goes all the way back to the start of the stream when I'm pointing out, like, or when I made reference to, you know, the distraction of the election and whatnot. Everybody's focusing on what John Swinney said, or everybody's focusing on what Keir Starmer is not doing or should be doing. Everybody's focusing on the Tories and Rishi Sunak being bad and whatnot. This, that, conspiracy theory this, conspiracy theory that, and whatnot. But yet, none of them will ever talk about, like, the bullshit that our governments are all doing in terms of education and whatnot. You know, here's another good example. This isn't even anything to do with education. The Tories, the Labour Party, and even the SNP up here in Scotland, they're all on board with the climate BS, aren't they? You know? So while they sit there and they argue the toss over who said what and who should have done what and whatnot, they can't take a step back and remember that they're all in unanimous agreement about what some of the most fundamental political fucking topics of our time, which are going to have a massive detriment, or going to be a massive detriment to us in the future. You know? They're all in agreement with stuff like that. They all signed us up to the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. Huh? They signed us up to the Migrant Compact in 2018. They signed us up to the Barcelona Declaration. Where's the mentions of that? They're all unanimous on these things, but yet you'll hear them publicly arguing the toss over stupid things. You know? It's a distraction. It is a distraction because that's what I'm saying. They argue the toss over things that do not matter and are trivial. And as a consequence, people en masse, when they are they think they're politically engaged, even political commentators like on the TV and that, they will only ever argue the toss with the things they're allowed to argue the toss with. You know? I can't wait for the day where I see somebody who's got any sort of stature on a TV platform or whatever calling them out for some of this bullshit. But you're not going to see it, are you? You're like, well, here's what the SNP did today. It's going to be John Swinney said this. Wow. Did he? That's amazing. Scots. Hello, Habibi. If you are free, you can join my stream for the next wee while, if you want. If not, it is fine. But, what else have I got here? Fucking so many tabs, man. So many tabs, eh? Yeah. I'm going to show you this as well. So this is still tied in. This is Education Scotland. Percent screen. Share. Let's see. Yeah. Promoting race equality and anti-racist education. Okay, Education Scotland. All learners have a right to learn in an equitable environment where all cultures, identities, and languages are recognised and valued, and where the curriculum responds to the diverse needs of individual learners. Fucking hell, man. Why are race equality and anti-racist education important? Learners are empowered to develop an understanding of their own values, beliefs, cultures, and those of others. Anti-racist education helps children to understand and realise their own rights and the rights of others within the school. Anti-racist education helps learners to understand the harmful consequence of racism and encourages them to actively challenge it. It helps to ensure the learning environment is an inclusive one without racial inequality or racism. It nurtures a historically literate It nurtures a historically literate. Oh, the irony of that, surely. You can't even fucking spell it. In learners, which helps them to understand all of Scotland's history, including our historical role in empire, colonialism, and the transatlantic slave trade, and the diversity of Scottish society in the past. Oh, fucking hell. Like, you see what I'm getting at here? It's just... So they revised history with obviously, they're going to call it historical literacy. But the revised history teach kids that white people just rocked up on the African continent and created the terminology of race to justify enslaving them all, kicked them all at the back of their boats, took them all the way to America and whatnot, and just enslaved them and treated them like shit. No mention of who sold them into slavery, no mention of other slave trades and whatnot. That doesn't matter because we need to be racially literate. So once you've drummed that narrative into kids' heads, part of the decolonization process, once kids feel horrible enough for the mistreatment of BAMEs, you can then in turn say that the attitude that justified that bad period of time still persists today. Then your proof, of course, I'm glad you asked. Well, see the lack of brown teachers and whatnot? That's because of the same attitudes that persisted all those years ago. We need to do things to change that. Yeah, that's literally it boiled down to its most ludicrous form. I couldn't have summarized it any better if I wanted to. That is what they're doing here. It helps learners understand how Scotland's colonial past plays a role in the current everyday life. See, I'm not talking shit. That was literally the next line. So they want to revise history, and their revisionist presentation will allow for them to, expand and say that it still persists in the current day. It helps learners understand how Scotland's colonial past plays a role in the current everyday life, acknowledging the successes and impact of minority historical figures in relation to the Scottish and global history. Race equality education provides a vehicle for all educators to demonstrate their professional values. The above means that race equality and anti-racism considerations in education are the responsibility of all and essential in all establishments across Scotland. So they've got some things here, some PDFs and whatnot. This one here I'm going to go on to very quickly. Is it this one? That one doesn't work anymore for some reason. This one, I think I've showed this before in the past. See if Scott Sarmers in the chat. Did you want to join? I don't know if he said. What have we got here? Good evening. Evening, Margaret. And it's a duck. What, like? This shit going on in the Highland region. Well, it's the thing, I don't know how much you've seen of the stream, but the video that I played at the start of them talking about the latest update, they're still very secretive as to where this is taking place. Obviously, to a certain extent, schools up and down the country, depending on the specific school and the constituency and whatnot, some measures will be in place because obviously they have to promote equality, or quote unquote. As far as this critical race theory bullshit is concerned, well, the jury's out on that one. I don't know. Because the vast majority of people that have participated in this program are keeping their cards close to their chest, which, why? Why are you doing that? Why are you being so secretive? It's cowardice, really. But they're not really being open about it. So the only way you're going to know is if your kid comes home from school and says, today we were learning about white privilege. That's kind of when you're going to start to know about it. But regardless, I can't answer that because I don't know. No, I don't see Scott Sarmer. Let's see this. Racial literacy was actually designed to be taught by parents of minorities. It wasn't even for use in schools. I don't know if that's... you could be honest sign there, I guess. I'll be honest, I don't know. I mean, I know that a lot of it stems from critical race theory, or theorist, should I say, publications from America and whatnot. The term comes up time and time again. I know it's obviously been adopted here, but I've never heard that before. Maybe. But anyway, get to this, wherever it's gone on my screen. Yeah. This PDF is pretty mental. I'm not going through the whole thing, but there's a few things in here. We've already played a bit of Melina, right? Same woman who's behind this program and whatnot, but there's a specific quote from here and here that's pretty mental. But this resource is for all educators who want to start understanding what anti-racism is and how we as teachers and pupils, allies and individuals with lived experience of racism can start our anti-racist journey as individuals. Okay? But bear in mind, this was shared from Education Scotland. Okay? Education Scotland shared this PDF. Okay? Just want people to bear that in mind. So I'm going to download that. Share this tab instead. Here we have this particular document. Okay, and I'm not going through the whole thing, but show you this part here briefly so we can see who's funding them, or in part anyway. ScotDec, National Library of Scotland, co-founded by the EU and Erasmus. Right. And here's the author here in question. She's an organizer, anti-racist educator, youth worker, and writer based in Glasgow. Of course, she's from fucking Glasgow. She's passionate about issues of identity, social justice, and the climate, continuously building their decolonial practice. Not going to say your name aspires to dismantle oppressive structures and to transcend race and gender constructs. She organizes in Black and POC-led communities like the Anti-Racist Educator Collective. The Anti-Racist Educator being the old website which Melina used to run. Same Melina from before. The Scottish BAME Writers Network and Intercultural Youth Scotland, among others. She has led anti-racist campaigns and initiatives nationally and received international recognition for her journalistic work. And look at look how this document describes her, as if we need this to be spelled out to us. But she's a light-skinned Black person standing in a park while smiling at the camera. Her big afro blows in the wind. They are wearing. You notice that they say they, no she. They are wearing a white jacket with blue and orange prints and a black T-shirt which says "Refugees Welcome." Well. Thanks for that description. I mean, that has just made my day. It's beautiful stuff. I mean, really. Fuck, like. I don't know. Oh, dear. We'll just come down now. All right, so we get the contents. We've got sections here for fragility, for brave spaces, creating safer spaces, power. And up here, we've got social identity, a world without race. Right? Understanding that the correct world order is 500 years old, and this is not the only way humans have ever lived. Race is a social construct, apparently, and taking action. Bear in mind, this document is for teachers. Yeah, I don't know if I explained that before. This is for teachers. So teachers that want to embark on their anti-racist journey to complete and utter treachery and brainwashery. Yeah, this is a sort of PDF that they might very well download and start to take on board, and before introducing it into their classrooms to pollute the children's minds. And I just want to set the scene there. This is for teachers, okay? So they say that things to consider before going into the classroom, learning outcomes long-term and whatnot. And then they've got exercises in some instances for children and young people to discuss. Let me zoom out though just a wee bit so people can see this. So, right, look at this. Okay. They say here, topic learning outcomes, and just down here, common patterns and behaviors of white fragility. Yeah, right off the fucking bat, white fragility. Educators will define white fragility, identify white fragility, and practice overcoming white fragility. Practice how to center the person who has experienced harm. Understanding fragility, building towards allyship. You're not even like 3 pages in and they're talking about white fragility. Understand why it's important to create this safety net before engaging in discussions on race and oppression. So it goes on and on and on and like this for ages. Considering my own position of power and my role within the structure, right? This is for white teachers, obviously. It's this bit here. It's good. Racial trauma. Okay. It's just remarkable that people are genuinely off the belief that things like this exist. People racialized as non-white experience racism every day. This is a fact. If you don't know this or you have not noticed, it is because you are not experiencing it. Well, oh dear, I don't know. Anyway, one of the main strategies and ways racial oppression has managed to prevail is by undermining these experiences. Instead of looking where it comes from and who is perpetuating racism, we as society ask BAMEs over and over again to tell us about their experiences without looking at the problem source. If we ask them at all, even less fortunate scenarios' attention is often redirected to white people and the guilt they feel about racism. While it is vital to create safe spaces, let me scroll down just a bit. While it's vital to create safe spaces for BAME people so they can share their experience and reflect what racism is and the effects it has on us, please note that your classroom, because bear in mind again, this is for teachers, might not be a safe space for a person of color to do so. Racial trauma, you know. And it goes on and on and on. I'm not good for all this. I'm just going to type in Melina here. Let me show you a specific section about her. Because she came away with something that's remarkable. And it should be down here. Melina outlines the key steps towards building brave spaces. This bit here. Oh, here we go. White tears are the specific phenomenon where a white person starts crying in response to an accusation of racism that they have committed. While the committer might feel sad or guilty, ashamed, focus should not be with them, but with the person who has experienced harm. White tears. So you've got white fragility, you've got white tears, etc., etc. But the point I'm getting is this shit, courtesy of her and others, and they sit on government panels now, being funded by your tax money. Yeah? White tears. I'm pretty sure this is the document as well where they reference the kilt. See if it comes up. No, it's not. White tears. Yeah. Fucking white tears. It's remarkable, truly. So, just never goes. And is that symbol actually our age glitch? Yes. Yes, it is. And it's becoming all too common, to be honest. And yeah, it's absolutely psychological, obviously. And if you ever found yourself in a position where a white child was crying, for example, because of the bullshit that they've been taught about, this is how they would describe it now. Oh, well, this white fragile child is exhibiting white tears. You know? Just dehumanizing at every level. But yet, we're the problem, apparently. It really is just fucking remarkable. Yeah, scenes that never happen. Right, let me see. What have we got here? So, promoting anti-racist in education, Scotland, present. See, I have so many tabs open, but I've had to fucking boot some of them away because, probably for the best anyway, I had to boot some of them away because my laptop was starting to slow down. But here's this one as well. This website's a bit of a bollock now. It never used to be like this, but like when you scroll down, this bit doesn't go away. So you're kind of limited to what you're able to fucking see in the screen. And if you try to like zoom in, it just zooms in on this as well. So there's literally no escape. But I just wanted to highlight, I've done this before, but this is just part of obviously everything. Education Scotland as well, by the way. But they say here, if I can even zoom in on it properly, a curriculum which represents everybody involved, normalizing diversity. Okay, that's the first section. But then it says, this normalizing is more powerful than one-off lessons that explore diversity or celebrate difference. They then say down here, the latter can have the unintended consequence of othering those who are not from the ethnic group, which is in the majority. Celebrating difference may reinforce stereotypes, so careful consideration is advised. However, they say normalizing diversity within the curriculum, as opposed to normalizing the white majority ethnic group, gives every learner the important message of being valued and belonging. Okay, there was never a process that was put into place to ensure that we normalize the white majority. It just went without saying. It was self-explanatory, but that's not good enough. That has to change. So we now need to instead revise our history and punt never-ending amounts of waffle about diversity and inclusion and BAMEs and whatnot to ensure that we normalize diversity and normalize a diverse future. More importantly, with the revisionist history, normalize an air quote unquote diverse Scottish society, historically speaking. You know, all ties in. Decolonizing the curriculum, they love to call it. Oh, Jesus. Anti-racists. Let me see. Yep, that. We're going through that. Breaking them all. Get rid of that. Other stuff. Yep. Anyway, I think I can stop sharing most of my things now, apart from, here we go. Anti-racist school clubs. Of course, that was mentioned earlier on by myself. And I've got this here just to show you. We hear from a young person in Glasgow about her school's anti-racist club and what it's achieved so far with the ambitions for the future. You know, and then there's another one here from the same website. Starting an anti-racist school club, Gemma Walters, principal teacher of equity at Smithy Croft Secondary School in Glasgow, explains how and why she started an anti-racist club in her school. You might be wondering what Gemma looks like. Well, let me show you what Gemma looks like. Oh, she's a lovely looking woman. I'm sure you can guess. Ah, there's Gemma. Ah, there's big bad Gemma.
Ooh, okay. About that idea of they are sometimes better at helping each other than we are at helping. And one of the things that I've been most proud, actually, as our journey with our anti-racist club, is that now that we've got this situation where we've started to have younger students coming up, and we can say to the older students, hey, we've got this new person coming up feeling a little bit uncomfortable about this, or they're feeling a little bit like something has happened to them. Do you want to step in? And that's a space where they would go and speak to them, as opposed to making it very formal and very teachery and going to pick up on kids and say, are you okay? Instead, they do it for each other, and it's starting to build this little culture of support and help for each other around the school, regardless of what's going on in our club, which I think is super important. With regards to safer spaces, I think it just cannot be overdone, the amount that we need to have those options. We need to have people that we can see and know are safe and know can be trusted and can understand and empathize with racialized experiences. It isn't the same as some other issues that you might have, that you might go to pastoral care or anything like that. It just isn't. When you feel that the person you're speaking to understands and really understands what that feels like to be attacked in that racialized way, it's a very different conversation than it would be with someone where you're having to explain to them the impact of that language or the impact of that experience.
Yeah. That's enough for you. But that is her. That's Gemma there, big bad Gemma. You know, she was one of the first people to get involved with this program back in the day, and she was one of the first people to inevitably create her anti-racist school club. Yeah, and this is becoming a thing now. One of the requirements when you come out of the other side of the Building Racial Literacy program, the cohort, as they call it, is you are given a bunch of recommendations that you must follow and whatnot. I've actually got screenshots of one of these that one of the teachers put on Twitter at the time. I will show you that now if I can. Video file. Is it this one here? No. I can't even remember how to share photos, It's been so fucking long. I can just do pictures, can't I? Yeah, I can. No? Oh, I have to do it the old-fashioned way, I think, which is annoying. Which I'll do. That's not a big deal. But I don't like sharing my full screen because it's laggy. But yeah, these teachers have to come out of this program and they have to do effectively they have to start their own anti-racist club. They've got a bunch of actions that they need to take going forward, such as this. Here's the screen. Let me share it. Share screen. Window. I don't like doing that, but here we go. There we go. Figured it out. This shit. Let me see if I can get one. This is the full thing. Right. So Their actions, growing my understanding of the different barriers and challenges faced by BAMEs, and by building future links with minority groups, reaching out to other building racial literacy members who can help connect me with such groups, reading research and articles written by BAMEs to understand their perspectives, which may be different to my own. Actions, continue to develop CPD and professional development and opportunities, and considering starting a professional reading group for colleagues or with members more widely to engage with learning around race equality and anti-racism, and starting an anti-racist club in my school. Yeah. And if I can get to like one of the other photos, look at this shit. Look at this fucking shit. Right? Intended impact on practice, showing solidarity and a deeper understanding towards other marginalized groups. Help to build my skills and knowledge. Will help me to design a curriculum, I should say, surely. Design a curricular that is more representative and meaningful. Look at this shit. References. Talking about white privilege, white racial identity, the model, or white racial identity model, apparently. For minority peoples, increased representation. I don't know if I've got a screenshot of that one. Might make things a bit better. Or I could just zoom in on that one, I suppose. For minorities, increased representation of their heritage and background in teaching and learning while showing value to these. For white peoples, increased understanding of the value of diversity in their own lives and education profession. I mean, this is remarkable. So Black kids and brown kids need to have, there needs to be more done to remind them of their heritage and make them proud of their heritage. Simultaneously, white peoples in this instance have to just shut up and accept it and learn about the values of what they're being forced to endure. That's really what this is. Having teachers who are racially literate means that learners will be able to enjoy a curriculum that is more meaningful and representative of 21st century Scotland and more global. This will encourage learners to have more open conversations with their teachers as they begin to feel more accepted and valued in their education spaces. Yeah. This is another one here. I've only got one photo of it, but this was another woman who posted this. This was just like several days ago. Posted this on her Twitter. She's got the same bullshit. Another action plan. But a few different things dotted in and around. If I was to zoom in, it would be somewhat different. But the premise is somewhat the same. But regardless, every single one of these people that gets involved in this program comes out the other side of it with this bullshit and an action plan, a reflective anti-racist action plan that they in turn have to take into their school setting. And that does not matter whether they are teaching nursery school children or whether they're teaching people in high school or even older than that. They have to do this. Yeah. It's just pretty fucking nuts, to be honest. So yeah, there's that. There is that. They won't. A red carpet. What's a red carpet stain with white tears? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Just don't understand. As I say, it's like obviously I've spent a hell of a lot of time looking at all this crap, but equally on the other extreme is so many people who will waste their entire night away arguing about politics on Twitter or whatever. They don't have a clue, eh? Not a fucking clue. So that's part of the problem, to be honest. That is part of the problem, a large part of the problem. Because while everybody seems to think that the SNP, the sun shines out their arse, and even for the ones that think that the SNP are a bunch of dickheads, they're still going to go to the ballot box in several weeks' time and vote for Labour to get the SNP out, or whatever the case, whatever they're going to do. Yeah, nobody's like taking a step back and sort of understand what the fuck's going on here. The fact that Education Scotland can punt all this stuff out of their own website and nobody seems to pay attention. They're telling you what they're doing to a certain extent. It's just relentless. Truly relentless stuff. I could go on that, but the last thing I wanted to show people, since I've fucking rambled like fuck there, is census. Scotland's census shit. What's this? Sorry. Primary teachers should not be responsible for the same pupils for whole terms now, too easily indoctrinated over long periods. I totally agree with you now in this day and age, especially in this day and age. I totally agree with that. It's a massive problem, to be honest. And I mean, the sort of bar that's been set for what constitutes a teacher is pretty fucking low at this point. And then, as I say, the General Teaching Council of Scotland, the professional standards, that teachers have to abide by in Scotland, That was recently updated in the last few years again to incorporate learning for sustainability and whatnot. But effectively, prior to that, but now even more so, teachers, whether they're in teacher training or they are teachers right now, they have to abide by this bullshit, such as promoting tolerance, fairness, inclusion, diversity. The list goes on, sustainability and whatnot, feelings, fifis and whatnot. I know. And who runs or who's one of the main members of the General Teaching Council of Scotland? That's Kajida Mohammed. Who's Kajida Mohammed? She's one of the BAMEs who's part of this fucking programme I've been speaking about all night. Wait till Labour get in. Degeneracy override ahead. Well, I don't really know if it can get much fucking worse, to be honest, mate, as far as Scotland's concerned. I really don't. But maybe it'll be different down there. I think Labour are getting in regardless down in England. But I mean, I don't necessarily know if it can get much worse in Scotland. I've not spent the last hour and a half talking about Labour. I've not needed to because the SNP have it's all stuff the SNP have done. So, but the census in Scotland is which tab was that? Because I've still got like fucking 30 open. Where the fuck is my tab, man? Here we go. I've got it, I think. Yeah, we do. Sound. Here we go. Present screen. One last time, boy. And we've got... Here we go. Come on a bit. Scotland's ethnic group, national identity, language and religion data, whatever, has been released. This report presents census data on religion, ethnic group and country of birth, national identity and language. The statistics show how Scotland, its people, and its culture are changing. It was never really changing before the last 20 years or so, but there's an awful lot of changing nowadays. Key themes include migration and Scotland's aging population. So, calm down a bit. The majority of people in Scotland, for the first time, have said they had no religion in the 2022 census. I just want to add a wee caveat here, obviously. I'm not somebody who's a firm believer in census data anyway, especially so this time around because the Scottish census was fucked up. Like there was a total mess up. I don't know why people weren't filling it out initially, but like there was a lot of people that didn't. So they had to end up extending it for another year to give people enough time to fill it out. And even then, not enough people really filled it out. I think it went from I think the last count was about 89% of people that could have filled it out. Then you have to take into consideration the people that fill it out incorrectly. Like some Polish guy who's lived here for like 30 years who now calls himself Scottish on the census. Well, you're not Scottish, are you? Like, it's just, it's not entirely accurate, but it gives you a sort of picture anyway. That said, so I think I might need to zoom in here actually, just to make things a bit better. It says that the Scottish census asked people what religion they belong to. This was a voluntary question, first used in 2001. In 2022, 6.2% of people did not answer the religion question. Percentages are calculated using the overall population. Right, for fuck's sake. Right. The majority of people in Scotland had no religion in 2022. So it's gone up. Does it give us a bit of a breakdown? Other countries also saw increases in the percentage of people with no religion over the recent decades. Data from England and Wales shows a similar trend to Scotland, but from a lower starting point. 37.2 had no religion, up from 14.8 in 2001. Census data from Northern Ireland shows an increase of 13%. So it's a sort of trend across the board. The religious group that saw the largest decrease since the 2011 census was the Church of Scotland. Wow. Increase in people with no religion in Scotland coincided with a decrease in people who said they belonged to the Church of Scotland. Sorry. So yeah, I suppose I want to speak to Scott's Arm about this, but obviously he's not really been about as of late. But I wondered his opinion on that, to be honest. Church of Scotland have come out and expressed some concern on the matter, to be honest. But Church of Scotland saw the largest decrease since 2011. And steadily, though, the Muslim population will be increasing very slowly. The percentage of people with no religion increased across all ages. Not going to go through all that, though. Ethnic group, though. Here we go. The percentage of people with a minority ethnic background increased from 8.2% in 2011 to 12.9% in 2022. This is a larger increase than over the previous decades, from 4.5 to 8.2. In 2022, 12.9% of people in Scotland had a minority ethnic background. So the minority ethnics continue to increase while the white continues to decrease. Standard day. Immigration, bro. Scotland's census asked people to choose the option that best described their ethnic group. And here's another wee example of why I don't take censuses too seriously. I mean, this is retarded. The majority of people in Scotland who chose Scottish, and wait, no, it's coming up a wee bit later on. Put it this way, like I read earlier on, and I'll probably come across it again, that the amount of people who define themselves on the census as Scottish has actually increased. How the fuck can it be increasing? Anyway, the majority of people in Scotland chose Scottish or other British within the white category. In 2022, these groups together made up 87.1% of the population. Minority ethnic group is used here to refer to all other ethnic groups, right? This includes some ethnic groups that were in the white category in the census, such as Irish, Polish, etc. The increase in people from minority ethnic backgrounds was driven by increases across several different groups. There were increases across several minority ethnic groups. So blue is 2011, green is obviously 2022. So steadying, not a tiny one of Irish. Polish, most certainly. Other white, mixed or ethnic. All right. Scottish, Pakistani increased. Scottish or Indian increased. Chinese has increased. African has increased. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, it's all increasing. The other white category saw an increase of 56,000 people. Around 3 out of 4 people in this group had European heritage. They wrote in European or wrote in a European country to define their ethnic background. Aye. Anyway. It says here that Aberdeen had the highest percentage of Polish people, followed by the city of Edinburgh, where the Polish ethnic group is more spread out across Scotland. Aberdeen's got the most polls. I could have swore it would have been Aberdeen to Inverness. But country of birth and Scotland's ageing population. Population change is driven by births, deaths, and migration. People moving into or out of Scotland. The increase in Scotland's minority ethnic population is partly explained by people moving to Scotland from overseas. The percentage of people born outside of the UK has increased from 7% to 10% between 2011 to 2022. We also know that an increasing share of births in Scotland are to mothers born outside of the UK. The census asked people how well they understand, speak, read, or write English. Whilst the number of people born outside the UK has increased since 2011, the overall percentage of people with good English language skills was similar. Oh, that's remarkable. That makes it okay then. Yeah. Without migration, Scotland's population would have decreased, and we would have fewer people in younger age groups. Well, that justifies it then. That justifies it. They say here that Scotland's population has grown or grew by around about 144,000 people since 2011. Okay. I would argue it's probably more than that. Bear in mind the census wasn't entirely filled in properly. Looking at population change by country of birth helps show the effect of migration. Between 2011 and 2022, the number of people living in Scotland who were born in Scotland decreased by 90,000. This decrease was offset by increases in the number who were born in the rest of the UK and born overseas. So the increase in Scotland's population was driven by an increase in people born outside of Scotland. Well, that goes without saying. There are more people in the older age groups in 2022 than ever recorded in Scotland's census. There are over 1 million people aged 65 and over. This is 60% higher than the number of people aged 20 to 29. Looking at age by country helps show the effect of migration. If we look at only people born in Scotland, we see larger relative differences between the size of older and younger age groups. There are 900,000 people who were born in Scotland and aged 65 and over. This is 85% higher than the number of people aged 20 and onwards. So we have an aging population that they themselves say can be rectified. The remedy is immigration. We have an increasing population, which is due to immigration. But what is decreasing is as ourselves. Isn't that remarkable? So while Scotland's population is aging, migration from the rest of the UK and overseas means we have more people in younger age groups than we would otherwise have. In 2022, 17.8% of Scotland's population aged between 20 and 39 were born outside of the UK. Yeah. Almost 20% of Scottish people aged 20 to 39 were born outside of the UK. Now, whether or not that was fucking Germany or Bangladesh, that is not the point. This is a figure that increases annually, as does our population annually, as does our birth rate figure decline annually. These are problems. Look at this bit, though. I love this bit. The percentage of people who said Scottish was their only national identity increased since the previous census from 62% to 65%. How the fuck's that work? How does that work? Unless, of course, it's got anything to do with they don't call themselves British anymore, they just write Scottish. But that's what annoys me about censuses, because it gives the ability for people to incorrectly fill this out. You know? It says here as well that the percentage who said their only national identity was British also increased. Okay, I can understand that when you got more and more immigrants, but how the Scottish? How the fuck's that work? How do you separate a legitimately ethnic Scot from some guy from Bulgaria who calls himself Scottish if they're both saying on a census are Scottish? You can't. You can't do that. You can't separate the two. You've got no way of knowing. One of them's Billy bullshitting and the other one's being sincere. But as far as the page will have you believe, they're one and the same. Thus, they've got statistics that are proof, apparently. I'm sorry, that in and of itself is a clear indicator not to take this too seriously. But I'll say on the flip side, right, you can see around you things are changing. You don't need a census to be filled out for you to understand that. You know yourself things are changing. It's becoming unavoidable. Percentage of population for the largest three national. I just love us. It's just on the increase. But yeah, so that's your census. I'll read this wee bit out here. They say, according to them anyway, that Scotland's census found that 2.5% of people aged 3 and over has some skills in Gaelic, which was an increase of 43,000 people since 2011. You know, there is a big push to get people to learn Gaelic, to get it in more schools and whatnot across Scotland. But I mean, that's all very well and good, trying to tug at some nationalistic heartstrings, etc. But at the end of the day, when you are like going out of your way to import people en masse or encourage as many people to come here as possible, do you really think people who speak Urdu or Somalian, etc., regardless of whether or not they come here with good intentions, are going to have children who they in turn are going to give a shit about Gaelic? Or do you think they would probably prefer to hear Somalian or Urdu or whatever it was? You know? So all this talk, this waffle about promoting our culture, it means fuck all to people who have their own culture. So it's just too little too late in that regard, eh? Being taught Gaelic is probably the least fundamental fucking topic of discussion that people should be having in this country at this point. Seriously. What the hell is that going to matter when there's not enough white children left, or Scottish people in general? It will just, if the Scots will die out along with their fucking language. But, you know, it is what it is. That's what they're saying. And, yeah. Our communities are changing. There's always an emphasis on changing. You know, but they say here that the Highlands saw an increase of 1.4% in population. Yes. Because Inverness, obviously, the fastest growing, or one of the fastest growing cities. Who's moving in? Well, it sure as hell ain't Barry and Pete from the schemes, is it? So that's the problem. It's just immigration 24/7. And I will get a wee breakdown. It's quite good before I wrap things up. Like, I just need to get my Telegram. So I do apologize if it lags a wee bit here. Like, that's me got it open. It's fucking annoying that you can't go on Telegram and use StreamYard at the same time, but it's not that far. I just need to scroll up to, where is she? Should be about here. Let me see. Yes. Gotcha. There is a picture. Where'd it fucking go, man? Oh, shite. Fucking hell. It's fucking annoying trying to use my laptop while I'm on the StreamYard, because there we go. Because it's jumping about all over the place because of my connection. But let me get this up. This is the last thing I'll show you. This is sort of breaks down everything in a much more articulate way than that presentation did. So here it is. A share screen. Let me get this photo up first. Have I got it open? No. That'll be why. Fuck's sake, do now. You can tell I haven't streamed myself in a while. I'm getting forgetful of my old age. I shouldn't say that too loud. Here we go. Right. Now it'll work. I'm sorry. My mistake. Please don't hurt me. Don't send me mean comments. I can't deal with them. Share screen. Window. This one. Yeah. Yeah, boy. So, this is a breakdown of it's 2011 now. Like 200,000. White Irish has increased. Gypsy Traveller has decreased. White Polish has increased. Any other white background, they've increased. Mixed. What a jump this is, though. This is where it gets quite fucking scary. Yeah? And it's really just read out that people are identifying as Scottish. Or maybe that's white Scottish. Maybe that's what that meant. Maybe it didn't specify white Scottish. That probably is what it meant. My bad. Because it's from the same website, like so. But anyway, look at this, though. This is where it gets quite fucking scary, to be honest. So, look at this jump. 19,000 in 2011 for mixed or multiple ethnic groups. Now it's 60,000. Asian has gone from 140,000 to 212,000. There's been a slight jump of Indians, 52,000. Pakistani, there's been a jump of about 30,000, putting the total from 49,000 to 72,000. Bangladeshi, like a 3,000 plus. Chinese, well, fucking 14,000 plus, roughly. Black people, apparently. I mean, I don't believe these statistics in regards to this. If you ever go to Glasgow, you'll see yourself. They're fucking everywhere, unless every single person included in the census is who lives down there. But anyway, they say this anyway, 36,000, and it's increased to 65,000. Africans, 29,000 to is now 58,000. Caribbean or black, that's not really increased very much. Other ethnic groups, look at the Arab one. 9,000, now 22,000. It's just fucking everything's increasing. The only thing that's decreasing is actual Scottish people, or people that filled it incorrectly anyway. Yeah, we're declining, but yeah, everything else is increasing. Yeah, starting to think about something that most people won't think about, but that is the stark reality of our future. Realistically, the future is pretty fucking bleak, to be honest. But anyway, I think I've rambled for fucking long enough now, so I think I will. I love leaving on a black pill. You know, that's lovely stuff. But yeah, just to sort of conclude things, obviously. It's anti-racist bullshit in our schools. It's been going on, as I pointed out, a few streams for a while now. It's been going on for a long time. Since like the George Floyd fiasco in 2020 onwards, this has been going on. More specifically in the years that followed, like 2022 and whatnot. But it's there. And it's just getting worse. Every single year it continues to worsen in terms of more and more people being brought into this project. And I really think that it's incumbent on people in general, for those that have the information, to do something about it in terms of fucking whether you've got a Twitter account, even something as minuscule as that. If you've got a Twitter account, fire it about the stuff. Yeah. Not my streams. If I could fucking fire my streams about, couldn't care. I'm on about the information itself. You know? I guarantee you, though, that the vast majority of conversations you're going to hear for the next 6 or 7 weeks is going to be about independents and the Tories and the Labour Party and voting and what to vote for and who to vote for and why you shouldn't vote and who you should vote for if you do vote and whatnot. And nobody's talking about the things that are going on behind the scenes. And that was kind of the purpose of the stream, showing you some of the shit that's going on. Because it is going on. And I don't know if it's down to a lack of awareness on the subject. I mean, that's obviously a part of it. Or if it's down to the fact they can do what the fuck they want, really. That combined, obviously, with the census. Interestingly enough, I've heard nothing about the census in the news. Nothing about it, really. Not heard any politicians speaking about it. Not heard anything. I even typed in the day on YouTube, Scottish census. Nothing never came up. Nothing at all came up. Which is odd. But regardless, there's nothing about it. But that's another fucking concern. You know? We're slowly declining as a population. And our government are doing fuck all about it, saying fuck all about it. Just insisting that we need independence and own borders. A lot to think about it. But anyway, rambled on for long enough. Thank you everyone for coming. And hey, fuck it. Why not? I'm not voting for any of these psychos. No, well, I don't vote anyway. So good on you. Nah. I'm assuming that was the... Oh, I'd have to pull it back up now. Oh, fuck. Should have done that. Should have looked at my comments before. Oh, my bad. But no, there was one that was a mental jump from memory. The Asians? No. Aye. What was it? Well, they breed like rabbits, don't they? What have we got here? I want to use Charles Blue style. Yeah. Right. Anyway. Love yous and leave yous till next time. Peace. Yeah, wow, you are.